Hello, all you wonderful whizzies out there. Today we are getting deep in the whizzy with Walt Silman, musician, entrepreneur, BMX bike enthusiast. He knows about babies, brew, and boards. Stay tuned. You're watching the WYSIWYG Podcast, where what you see is what you get.
On this journey together, we're bound to connect. When what we see is what we get on the WYSIWYG Talk Show. And what you'll see is what you'll get.
As usual, we're coming to you live from the beautiful Monroe, Louisiana, Antley Studios. Jeremy Antley is running the show behind the camera. Looking good over there, Jeremy. He gave the nod. I guess that's okay. So, yeah, he's doing his thing. If anybody needs any podcast production, photographs, media, stuff like that, call Jeremy Antley. He's a great guy. The WYSIWYG way, I want to talk about this real quick, is to provide helpful information to as many as people as possible in a way that unites our community to excellence. So transparency is how we do that, and we strive for what you see is what you get, clarity. On this journey, we will examine all kinds of issues that affect our health and wealth and do our best to reveal the truth no matter what. So what you see matches what you get. And as always, keep in mind 2 Timothy 2:24, which in summary says, the servant of the Lord must not quarrel, but be kind to everyone, be able to teach and be patient with difficult people. I want to give an out-at-a-biz shout-out to the Monroe Chamber of Commerce today. Usually we try to spotlight a local business. The Monroe Chamber of Commerce is such a thing. If you haven't noticed, there's been quite a buzz in Monroe, a positive energy around the chamber because of the work that they are doing, efforts to improve our community by their staff and their board. There's a spirit of togetherness that I haven't seen in the past that's sort of growing every year. And I do have a place on the board and in 2 committees, and I can tell you that, daily I get emails, I see the work being done behind the scenes. They do a lot of things. They do a lot of promotion of civic groups, of nonprofits, people that need help. They help market. They help clean up trash off the streets. They do a lot of things, and they've got a lot of arms and legs. But those arms and legs are made up of people like us. So if you are interested in getting involved with the Monroe Chamber, you don't have to be a business. You can just be an individual. Give them a call. You can go to monroe.org and get all the contact info. I'm going to put a link in the notes, and talk to a guy named Mike Downhauer. Some of you may know him. He is charged with being sort of like a community relations director, and I think Ashley Dowling is helping with that as well, so you may get her on the phone. Great people, awesome energy, a lot going on there, and Monroe is on the up and up, and West Monroe is too. We work with Chris over there a lot at their chamber, so we're seeing a lot of good things happen. If you want to get involved while it's fresh and you kind of get in on the ground floor and be involved in something great, give them a call. Today I want to talk about some disturbing news in a little segment we call What's Up With That. Apparently, Florida is releasing a killer clown into our midst. Yes, killer clowns do exist. And this one, it hasn't been that long since she was convicted of murder. Apparently, in 1990, there was. This is the AP News reporting about 4 days ago. A lady named Sheila. She's now 61. She's been released on good behavior after taking a plea deal some years before. She was charged with dressing up as a clown and murdering a woman and then marrying her husband. Yeah. The story goes that she bought a clown suit, and she used a car that had been reported stolen from her boyfriend's, the murdered lady's husband, dealership, and bought a bunch of balloons at Publix, and then she rang the doorbell and handed the victim the balloons, and when she thanked her, she shot her in the face. So this is not a nice story. The murdering she-bozo later married the guy and moved to another state where they opened a restaurant. She was apprehended in 2000 after some DNA evidence surfaced that apparently the technology got good enough they could figure out hair follicles and whatnot, and she's said to have taken a plea deal to take advantage of Florida's lenient good behavior laws, expecting 2 years, and I think she served a lot more than that, something like 14. So, man, Walt, welcome to the show. We're gonna open that can right now.
What an introduction!
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you can't be less offensive than a murdering sheep, bozo.
Right. I mean,
you have to.
Yeah, this is one thing that doesn't surprise me, as my wife is very much into true crime and looking into all that. She does a podcast with a guy about all this stuff, so I get to hear a lot about it. She probably knows about it. She could probably tell me everything I want to know about it.
Yeah, well, most clowns, like, they have the little flower thing and they just kind of squirt you with water, but this just seems a little extreme.
She squirted with a gun into the face.
Yeah, I wonder if she had like a gun in the flower or something.
Maybe
like
the Joker from Batman or something like that.
Well, couldn't she just like tickle her to death or something? Maybe she tried that and it didn't work.
For what she was wanting, I don't think a tickle would have done. I think the 9mm flower
tickled her with
did the trick.
Tickled her with some lead. Yeah. It kind of has a John Wayne Gacy vibe to it.
It definitely
Dress
does.
up like a clown and murder
It's just a lady
Yeah.
that wanted her man.
Well, before this goes any more downhill, I just think, what was the trial like? You had O.J. Simpson's guy with a glove, and was there like a clown nose they had to like demonstrate to the court that it didn't fit?
The clown suit doesn't fit.
Yeah. If the wig don't fit,
the wig don't
quit.
fit. Yeah. It's not her.
Yeah, the red nose. So I'm just wondering if they have clown prisons. Are they just like really tiny, like a Volkswagen Beetle?
When you walk in and close the door, when it locks it goes honk honk.
Yeah, it's like
or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. And like in prison, everybody has a job, right? They have like making license plates. You hear about that, but I mean, I'm sure they dig and do some work on the farm and stuff like that. But
that's where all the horns get made. At the clown prison.
The clown horns.
Yeah, clown horns get made at the clown prison.
Yeah, or maybe she like smuggled, like she had like how people smuggle in cigarettes. I wonder if she like had tiny balloon animals.
She smuggled in whoopee cushions.
Whoopee cushions
like
and balloon animals. Yeah,
balloon animals for sure, 100%.
Well, even more scary. What's she going to do now? I mean, you get out of prison, you're a clown. You're like walking down the street with the hobo bag, on a stick.
Well, she can't get a job at the circus because it might resurface some of those things that made her do what she did that day.
Right, you trigger something.
She might.
And I guess birthday parties are out.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a rough life for her.
I'm sure she won't be checking you out at Publix. That's for sure. Right?
No, but hey, women out there, watch your man.
Yeah,
clown lady might come get him.
Yeah, and all you people that have like a phobia of killer clowns, I mean, it's a real thing. Apparently
with her, you should really be scared of her.
Somebody at least found that out the hard way. Well. Introduction to Walt Sillin. Man, I've known Walt, 15 or so years. Walt has a business in West Monroe area called Redeemed Auto Body. He serves all of the northeast Louisiana. I'm sure it reaches out further than that. I just kind of want to introduce you, talk about your business, your family, things like that. I like to break the ice with just some questions. Can you share with us a memory that that makes you laugh, or I guess if you makes you cry, you could say that too. But we want to bring things up after the clown jokes.
Oh yeah. Well, as being 37 and looking in the mirror, I have a lot of crow's feet around my eyes, which means I've done a lot of smiling and laughing. So I can't really pinpoint any one thing, but I guess on the top of my mind would be like all the inside jokes that me and my wife have.
Yeah.
And they're inside jokes, so I can't say it here.
Right. We don't want to make them outside jokes.
No, but I mean, I can think of one, I think a couple of weeks ago, that we used Snapchat, so she sent me a video, and it made me bust out laughing. So every time I think about that, like, it just makes me chuckle every time.
Well, that's cool. What drives you crazy? And we can not talk about her in this one if you want.
What drives me crazy is, what's the term? Overstimulated is kind of a new term that I'm just now recognizing.
Yeah.
I get overstimulated a lot. Like, I own a business. I have a wife. I have kids. I have friends. I have a phone. And my phone will not shut up during the day. And people always need me. Parts vendors come by. The phone rings. Everybody needs something. And too much happens all at one time, and I get overstimulated. It drives me bonkers.
What do you do? Because I have the same problem.
Well, you learn how to use Do Not Disturb on your phone for one,
but once you get there and you kind of like need to calm down, you got any secrets for us?
For kind of calming down is sometimes like yesterday, I just left to go take lunch by myself.
Well, I'm glad.
I went to Daily Press, sat down by myself, and just had a quiet lunch by myself, and it kind of it recalibrated my mind. I came back to work almost feeling fresh.
Right.
So I think, like, anything from like going to a good walk or having lunch with a friend is a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't do that enough.
Right.
I actually texted a friend yesterday after I got back from lunch and said, hey, let's go to lunch next week. And he was like, yeah, let's go. So I made a lunch date.
You should do that.
After going to lunch by myself.
So sounds like there's a lot of lunch involved in calming down.
There's a lot of lunch involved.
Food, man.
Well, I mean, that might be the only time you get to have that time. You need to do what you need to do, because after work you might not have time to go do something, because if you're married with kids and stuff, you need to hurry and get home, take care of business. You know?
It starts a new you clock out of the one and clock into the other.
Yeah, so it's almost kind of like as a married person with children and a lot of responsibility, it's like lunchtime is your only you time, unless you are part of the 5 a.m. club and you wake up super early and do all that, which I also try to do, which that time is spent working out and stuff. So
that's cool.
That's the only time I get to work out. You know, I mean, with kids running around and everything during the day.
You got a big family
at the house.
So what's like a work of art or a movie that has affected your? You know, it could be a song, it could be an album, something that you can come back to it if you want to. Think
I'm not much of a movie person. My wife is the movie person. I would say top of the list books is Antley Leadership by Dave Ramsey. Really brings a lot of faith into the business mix, and he talks more about people than he does processes and procedures and finance. And I think probably the number one quote, and I don't know the exact quote, but sometimes it's better to make people decisions than money decisions. You know, you got to look at your team, you got to look at the people that are around you and the people that are involved, and something might not make the best financial sense, but if it makes the best sense for your people, that's usually the way to go. So that's what I've always tried to live and die by. So Antley Leadership's a great book. I finished that book and then decided to start my own business back in June 2020. So, yeah.
Wow, what a great time to start a business.
I know, right? Right in the middle of COVID. Let's start a business.
Were you essential or non-essential?
Let's go there.
A little bit of both, it felt like at the time.
Yeah. I don't know if it's good to be both. You either wanted to be fully open or fully closed.
Well, you know, Body Shop was an essential business, but given that I was brand new, it's like
it was it was essential to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I felt too. Well, I had a lot of time to think during that time, so there was some spiritual growth and business growth and all that. That's kind of what caused me to go independent as well. So, well, thanks for sharing that. I wrote down Antley Leadership. We'll put it in the links. And I'm a big fan of the Ramsey organization. I've worked with them in the past for a couple of years on some things, and I can tell you that their people are quality. So they definitely focus on the people, which is what I think you and I both try to do. Any goals or anything you're working on now?
Man, the goal right now is we have a little girl on the way in February. My business will be 5 years old in June next year. So really just delegating as much as I can at work and trying to get some of my time back that I've invested in growing the business, and really trying to find that sweet spot of having the right people in place, doing all the right things, me doing my part for them, for my family, and being successful in all areas. Like, we've done the hard work to get it where it needs to be. Me and my wife have been together for 10 years, and we've gone through the ups and the downs, figuring out marriage and all that.
Yeah.
It's not easy, you know. Marriage isn't you find the right perfect person for you and you live happily ever after. That's not the case. You know, marriages work. You choose to love sometimes. So personally, with my marriage and with business, doing those two things at one time is a challenge in itself. So I think we're at a really good spot now to where we can really tighten up everything and everybody can really have a lot of fun right now. So
that's awesome.
That's the goal right now, is to just really fine tune everything and just see how good we can make it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it. Love is a verb, you know.
It is.
It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's the only thing that's worth it, really. So if you would visit any place, if you could just go anywhere and just take off, where would you go?
Well, if my wife listens to this, the only answer is Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Oh, I love Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Yes. So we actually want to move there within the next 5 years or so.
Oh, yeah. We might want to edit that part out. I don't know. Somebody might get mad for spilling the beans.
No. I mean,
he's kind of an open book, man. We're all about transparency.
Yeah,
here, so.
It's a beautiful place.
Oh, no, it's gorgeous.
We go there all the time. And no hate against West Monroe. It's just,
I grew up with a guy named Trey Stillman. He lives there. You probably Trey Stillman. You probably don't know him, but you guys would hit it off.
Yeah,
he has a tattoo studio.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, me and my son love doing outdoor stuff. We like camping, BMX, racing, mountain biking, paddleboarding, kayaking. Arkansas is a beautiful place to do so.
I mean, all. And Hot Springs is right at the intersection of all of it. You got I-30 nearby.
Yeah,
you can get to Little Rock pretty easy.
It's a short drive.
Oh yeah,
pretty
amazing
from here to there.
It's not
home isn't too far away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like this will always be home. This is my grew up 37 years now here.
Yeah.
So this will always be home, but we really love it.
You're attracted to that area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we are very much.
Well, that's cool. So maybe you and Heather and the gang will end up there. I noticed I was stalking around on your website. So you've got this company called Redeemed Auto Body. Tell me about that.
Boy, man, it's been a lot of work up to this point. But Redeemed started off with, I wanted to find a shop basically that treated people the way I wanted people to be treated. And not to say that there weren't good shops around here that was happening at, but I felt like I needed to go out and create that myself. So a lot of biblical things support how I approach business and people. And talking about transparency, like a body shop is one of those businesses that I would say generally people think that shops mess people around. Like they get that big insurance check in to fix your car, and then they cut corners and might not do the right thing and then walk away with that money.
Right.
I mean, I've heard countless
stories.
stories.
Sort of the general reputation of most. So if you just polled 1,000 people, you'd get a consensus in that direction.
That is the reputation that a lot of shops have, that a lot of people think is, I guess you could say, almost fraudulent type behavior. Like the insurance says, yes, we'll pay you to put a new fender on this truck, but the shop fixes it instead, but still takes the money for the new fender.
I see.
You know what I'm saying?
Takes
So that's a small example. Now, not to say that all shops do that.
Right. But you felt there was a need for a local option that had absolutely none of that involved, or maybe a better transparency of sorts, or a better ethic of sorts that was absolutely unchallengeable.
Right. It's almost kind of like doing a 180 to the whole process and putting the customer, the vehicle owner, in the driver's seat, and me working for them and letting them be the boss and telling me what to do.
But Walt, that's hard and not as profitable.
You would think that, and obviously, yes, it's harder. It's tougher.
Yeah.
Because it would be nice if you could just take their car and talk to the insurance company and just get it done, and everybody walks away smelling like a rose. Yeah. That's not the case. Right. Insurance companies tend to want to argue and push back about items and operations that need to be done. And therefore, that's why I like to get the customer involved to help out with the situation. Hey, what do you want me to do? Here's your options. What would you like? Instead of just doing whatever.
So you're saying the answer there is to sort of put all three entities at the table. You've got the insurer, the insured, and the repair person, all open to each other's comments and suggestions, and that tends to lend itself to a solution that's better for the client.
Well, I think what happens most of the time is the customer has no idea what's going on when their car is getting fixed. They just know, oh, we got parts in. Okay. Oh, it went to paint. Cool. Oh, you just got done putting it together. Oh, it's ready for me to pick up. Cool. instead of, hey, Ford says to use this part, but your insurance company is saying we can use some aftermarket part from Taiwan, and it's not going to work the same, it's not going to look the same, and it's probably not going to react the same during a wreck.
And at that point, the foreign part, they have no skin in the game, right?
No.
Like they're not around to help.
Oh, no.
If something fails.
No. I mean, they say they have a warranty, but I mean.
Well, I would imagine the Ford part is made to Ford specs.
Well, yeah, it's made from Ford. It's the part
the same
Ford
part.
would put on the vehicle in the production line.
Right.
And most importantly, it's the part that's on the vehicle when the government crash tests it. Vehicles don't get crash tested with aftermarket parts.
No, they don't.
We don't have any idea how they're going to react. And to go even deeper, all parts work together.
Yes.
Even if it's not a quote-unquote structural part, you got to think all the little plastic brackets and little pieces here and there during that government crash test all kind of work together to help take that energy off of you in the driver's seat. And if you put an aftermarket part there, who's to say what's going to happen?
Yeah. And when people buy a used car that may, I heard a stat saying 50% of used cars have been in some sort of accident. I mean, is there a way they can know other than that? Because I don't think those reports that you pull up for $10 online are really that reliable. If things can happen, if there can be doubts as to what inputs were put into the system, what records were actually claimed, like, wouldn't it be in everybody's best interest just to say it was a minor impact when it really was T-boned to the core, or is that a possibility?
Well, it's out of our control what Carfax says.
Right.
But I think more importantly, before we get into that, are the things that Carfax doesn't know about. So you have a car dealer that will go buy a bunch of cars at the auction that have been wrecked. But a claim hasn't been made on them.
Right.
Or he buys a car from Joe Blow down the street. They got in a wreck and Joe couldn't fix it. He didn't have the money. So car dealer guy goes and buys the car. And then he's in cahoots with a couple other shops that'll get it fixed up. Might not be right. Might not be good, but it'll be good enough to sell.
And will it have a salvage title like it's supposed to have?
Well, that's the thing. Like buying the car from Joe Blow down the street, if he didn't do an insurance claim,
right. There's no record.
Then it's not going to total.
That's right.
The title's still good. So car dealers can go buy that car, send it to one of his shops. They can get it fixed up, however, make it look good enough to sell.
Right.
And next thing you know, that person's thinking they're buying a car with no Carfax.
Well, that's outright thievery because the car that's been wrecked to that degree is not worth what a unwrecked car should be worth.
Well, and that's another piece of the puzzle is that car is going to get sold for book value.
Right. In my mind, it would be better for me to take my car to you, make sure that it's replaced to the factory specifications of repair, and so it's as original as it can be, and then have it on record and be like, well, I took it to Redeemed Auto Body, and here's what they did. I mean, the value of the work and what went into the car is so good that you'll never know this was a wrecked car.
Right.
I don't know if that would be I'm sure I would still take a haircut on the value of the vehicle, but that's just the way I think. It would seem better.
I mean, and that's my job is, number one, to keep it safe. So once you get it back, it's going to do what it's supposed to do if you get in another wreck. But additionally, like maintaining as much value as possible to your vehicle is also something that is my job. And the only way I can do that is fixing it by the book. Like if Ford says, do X, Y, and Z, my paint company says, do X, Y, and Z, we need to do X, Y, and Z. And the problem that gets thrown into that is insurance company says, well, we'll pay for X, but we're not paying for Y and Z.
Right. I actually saw this happen on my truck that I brought to you after I hit a deer. And I was worried. Walt's demeanor, your demeanor was like, we'll see what happens. It's just like walking around. Yeah. And I was like, well, am I going to have to pay this much or that much? And it ended up all working out just fine.
It worked out. It was one of the better companies to deal with. And they're one of the companies that are more willing to actually hear me out and discuss things with me, which is becoming more rare nowadays with insurance companies.
Right. I remember there was some dissonance between the system that they wanted you to provide info to It was like an online system, and you were trying to provide the info, but you were refusing to use their system because it was designed to only take like a dumbed down version.
Right.
And you said, no, this is what I want to present to you. You should have a way to take this report and do what you need to do with it. And they were being a little obstinate at first, but eventually they gave in. And once the adjuster took that document and took it all the way, it became a clear issue that these things needed to be done. All the things needed to be paid for,
right.
and the claim went through, and I didn't have to pay except my deductible.
Yeah.
So, but I would have been on the hook for the additional cost if they had refused to do so.
Right,
It's very important.
But at the same time, going back to how I like to do things, you wouldn't be on the hook unless you agreed to be on the hook. So that's kind of at the beginning, like, hey, here's where we're at, and if things don't work out with the insurance company, this may be your responsibility. How would you like us to proceed? That's typically what we do with every job.
So you are there to defend and to sort of advocate for the insured who is rightly owed a proper repair.
Yeah.
And that's the way everything I've ever heard you say is that's really the only person you're working for. So do you think maybe things have gotten kind of blurred with allegiance with like maybe a repair shop wants to get more business, so they sort of kowtow to a certain company that might want to cut corners and cut costs, and they're just sort of ramming them through, and then that all of a sudden that repair shop is super busy with a bunch of mediocre work that really could have been done better. Yeah. Do you see a lot of results of that type of behavior?
So we refer to that as a direct repair program shop. They're directly involved with the insurance company. Therefore, the insurance company will say, hey, customer, you just got in a wreck. Take it down here to this shop. They're one of our preferred shops.
Yeah, they did that to me, by the way. And I said, no, I'm going to go see Walt.
Yeah. Now, the deal that a shop makes with an insurance company is if the vehicle totals, then we won't charge you any fees for all this stuff. We'll basically be a free storage facility for you. We'll give you discounts on parts, paint materials, and labor, which is all fine and good, because who's against saving money?
Right.
Exactly. So, I don't fault the insurance company for wanting to save money.
So how do they save money in that situation? If you're totaling it and directing the customer to a preferred.
So if your vehicle totals and it goes to one of the insurance company's preferred shops, then the insurance company won't have to pay like a daily storage rate,
right,
or any excess fees for the work that the shop has to do.
Okay. Gotcha.
The shop might get a little bit of disassembly time, but other than that, to my knowledge, shop doesn't really make a dime off of total losses. So the benefit for the insurance company is saving a lot of money on that, having a place for the car to be that doesn't cost them money. Like if it were at a towing company's yard, getting charged every day for every day that's there. Yeah. So if they can have a shop where it's free, hey, that's a win-win.
So
for
what's
them.
in it for the shop? If they're agreeing to that, there's got to be another back scratch.
Well, that's part of the deal. That's not the good part for them. The good part for them is referrals.
Yeah. DRP.
I mean, if you're a DRP, we'll say DRP, direct repair program shop. If you're a DRP shop, you could literally not spend money on advertising at all and have plenty of cars coming in.
It's just like a big funnel. It just happens.
Yeah. Which, I mean, the big insurance companies, we know them all. We see we see their commercials.
Yeah.
If they're all telling everybody to take your car to Bob's Body Shop, I mean, why wouldn't you take it?
That's what happens, right? Yeah. They have like one or two or three in the region.
They'll have a few because one might get busier, so they'll flood some over here and trying to even it out. But I mean,
do you see where they refer to people that are quality like you, or do they not do that?
So when I think of quality like me,
like redeemed, we're this mission to do it right, to fix it for the client to their interest, and not really listen to the deals that are coming down the way from the insurance.
No.
They don't refer
the main answer is no.
So you're not going to get a mainstream insurance company DRPing to you?
No, I'm pretty sure
You're like on their
I don't know,
DRP.
saying this on the podcast, but I think I'm probably on the blacklist for some of them. Like, they're probably like
we don't
trying to do everything.
Redeemed Auto Body.
I guarantee you that a lot of these big companies, as we all know, are probably doing all they can to keep them from coming to my shop. Just because if you do it the right way and you're a good business person, you'll charge for what you do. Well, it's going to cost them more.
You know, I think we see this in the healthcare. I don't want to get into the politics of it, but I think we have the same situation driven by insurance profit in the healthcare industry, where you have good practitioners that don't want to bow the knee to the ones directing all the traffic to their shop. And and the goal of the insurance company is to get them to Medicare age as cheaply as possible. And then you've got, doctors out there that are stressed out and don't like what they have to do to stay in business, but they have to do it. And then you got others that say, hey, I don't need this. I'm either going to retire or open up a private practice that doesn't take insurance. Yeah. And then you end up.
I like to use the healthcare industry as an example all the time because I think people can.
It's a different kind of body shop.
People can relate to it a lot better than a body shop. The way, just imagine an insurance company telling your heart surgeon, oh, no, you don't have to do that. So don't do that. When the heart surgeon says, we got to do it. Well, who are you going to go with? Yeah. Are you going to side with, Jake, or are you going to say, hey, heart surgeon guy, I want to live. I want to be healthy. Yeah. Do what you need to do, brother. Yeah. So same thing in my industry. They'll say, well, you don't have to do that. No, how about you don't do that? I'm like, it has to be done. Yeah. This is the way to do it. Yeah. This is textbook, the way to do it. Not my opinion, not your opinion, but this is how we've been trained how to do it. Yeah, it's not. And now you're telling me,
as far as it's not up for somebody.
You got somebody that probably doesn't even know how to change their own oil, trying to tell me what I need to do to a car. Right. So it's so backwards, and that says shops have let that happen over the decades. Yeah. And now you have those DRP relationships, and it happens every day, all day long. The shop might write a bill for $1,000 for something. The insurance company will be like, all right, take this and this and this and this and this off, and knock that bill down to $750. Right. In the shop, being a DRP, what do? Well, you're either going to play the game or get kicked off.
So let's differentiate between the first thing we talked about, which is some body shops that will outright just, rip people off with a subpar repair that's passed off as a quality repair. And then you've got the mainstream, probably the bulk of the body shop companies, maybe just doing what they got to do to get by. They're not directly ripping off the person, but they're working with an agency that's not in the insured's best interest.
Right. And I'd like to step in right there and say that I know pretty much all the shops around here, and all these shops around here are good shops. Yeah. I believe. Yeah. I mean, I worked for one for 13 years. Great place, wonderful place. I mean, did great work. So I don't want it to sound like if you did take your car to one of those insurance preferred shops, then they're just going to rip you a new one and everything's going to be terrible.
Right. I didn't gather that.
Yeah. I just want to make that clear.
Well, I realized while we were talking that we kind of went from that subject to that one. So I wanted to draw a distinction there and make sure everybody listening knows what we're talking about. Yeah. So I get that. I would say if 80% of the companies that are out there are probably great and good, and, reputable, and you can deal with them.
They're doing what they need to do to get by, make it work. Right. I think most of us shops, we're doing the best we can. Like there are some shops that don't even know what repair procedures are. Right. You know what I'm saying? But they're doing the best they can. And so knowledge is power in my industry. And some shops just don't know what they don't know. And I mean, you have guys that have been doing this stuff for decades, and you tell them about post-collision safety inspections, and they look at you like you're speaking Japanese. And you're like, dude, every vehicle manufacturer has this stuff. After a car gets in a wreck, they have a sequence of things they want you to do on the vehicle to check to make sure all the safety stuff's good. But, there's a lot of people that don't know anything about it. So I say all that to say that everybody's doing their best. Some people just don't know what they don't know. Some people don't know that they're doing wrong. Right.
Their standards may not be aware of the standards they need to have because they were taught with these standards instead of saying and they just haven't discovered it yet. And this is, there's a lot to know about repairing vehicles, but the business of repairing vehicles is a whole different thing, I'm sure. And so you could be mentored in, or you could just work at this other shop, and I'm sure that that's just your trade practice. And to those people, we want to say we're not, Walt is not trashing the industry as a whole when he says you're kind of like in a way you're kind of like John the Baptist in my mind, because it's like you're out there in the Balkanville wilderness, crying out, make way in the truth and all this stuff, and you're baptizing people in the word of auto body repair, and saying, hey, there's a better way. Now you're not saying he sort of he called some people vipers, but they were more of the people that were sort of usurping God, taking place, really just doing the nasty stuff to the people of Israel. But I was going to point out something else too, that you had mentioned the safety of it all, and I thought immediately about what do we do when our kids turn 16 and they want a car, and my idea is just get them a good, reliable, cash car, spend $5,000 to $7,000 on it, and let them bump into stuff if they have problems or whatever. It's going to happen. Something 10 or 15 years old with liability, pay for it, have good liability and uninsured motorists. Is there a way that a dad like me can run that by somebody for a fee? Because I know if you offered that service, there would be a line.
Yeah. I tell people all the time.
Yeah.
If you're looking at buying a car, bring it over. I can look at it real quick and tell you if there's some not good things going on with it.
That's really cool.
And there's also things that's like, all right, look, there's something right there, but
it's okay.
Whatever. It's a beater, man. That's the least of your worries. Trust me. Yeah. Like, this thing's going to get beat up.
Yeah.
I remember when I was 16, then I started driving. Boy, I was tearing everything up. So, but yeah, I mean, you can always take it to your mechanic.
Yeah.
But you could always take it to me. I'd be more than happy to look.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't take very long, because it doesn't take very long to find bad things that are like, oh wow, yeah, don't get this.
That's
because usually if that's the case, it's pretty quick to find.
Huh. Okay. So you could spend like 15 minutes with a car and kind of know.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty quickly.
You want to look at the structure, you want to look at the suspension, look at the motor, frame rails. You can look at bolt heads, and if the paint's been knocked off and they're kind of rusty on the edges, it's been taken off. So fender bolts, door bolts, bumper bolts, all that stuff. You can tell if it's been messed with. So if the hood has been taken off, you can go, all right, let's go on this hood. And you're going to go down the hinges, and then you're going to look at the structure where the hinges bolt up. You're going to look at the front end, because more than likely you got hit in the front. So now we're going to look at all the mounting points and all the weld-on brackets and everything. And if there's something going on, it's not too hard to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
If it's a bad deal.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, I knew to look at the bolt heads, but I don't think of it like that. Like, you got to follow it down to the source of the problem and really look at the structure. I'm always thinking,
you got your frame rails, and then you got where the motor bolts up, and where the suspension and the suspension mounting points bolt up, and those are the main points you really want to look at.
Right.
Because the motor can be fixed, suspension can be fixed, but the structure of a vehicle and rust and kinks in the frame, it's like, all right, now there's a kink in that frame. Nah, this is not a good one. I know it looks great, and I know he's excited, but no.
Yeah, and you probably have this happen a lot. So in that vein of thought, with people in a wreck situation, say something does happen, our teenager or somebody, or maybe one of us, we have a fender bender, we have a wreck, and we just don't know what to do. The policeman's there, we're looking at it, and it's all like kinked upside on. It's like looks like the Phantom of the Opera car or whatever, smashed on one side, and you're just like, what? I don't think it's drivable. Is it drivable? So you got all these questions. You got this puddle under the car. What do you do? I mean, because usually the attending officer is saying, hey, let me call you a tow truck, and it ends up in Kalamazoo, and you're paying that nightly, whatever the $25, $50 a day fee is, while you figure out where to take it. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you have a way to kind of teach us some best practices there, some ideas that might keep us out of a more expensive scenario there?
So a quick little point. On average, a person gets in a wreck every 7 years. So that's a lot of time between that situation that you're probably going to forget about everything. So that's an interesting little fact. I mean, obviously it helps. Like if you broke your leg, you have a doctor or a hospital that you're just going to go to regardless because your leg's broke. You need it fixed. So it's good. It's good to have a shop of choice. You know what I'm saying? Like people that know me, they just know, send it my way if anything should happen. And I've heard from people that maybe the police officer would be like, oh no, it's fine to drive. And when I get it, I'm like, you shouldn't be driving this. This is not safe.
I've never heard that.
Or a police officer might say, oh, that's only going to be $1,000. That'll be fine. And man, there's hardly anything's $1,000 anymore in my industry. I mean, to put a bumper on a car nowadays is probably closer to $2,000.
Wow.
You know, with the part price, the paint materials, and nowadays, I just looked at my P&L reports, and I've spent a lot of money on calibrations this year up to this point. It's a fairly big percentage of what I've spent money on for the business. A lot of cars have sensors and radars and cameras and all these things to help keep you safe and make driving a little bit easier, which makes the cost go up. So you can't really take somebody's word that doesn't do this every day as to how much it's going to cost. Or, oh, your deductible's $1,000? I wouldn't even mess with it.
You wouldn't even mess with it.
You'd be surprised how much it costs to fix a car nowadays. I promise you. I had an Audi in the shop a couple weeks ago. Front bumper damage. We had to put a new bumper on it.
The Audi had an innie? Is that right?
The Audi had an innie. But we had to replace the front radar on it, which is when you have automatic cruise control on, it'll keep you behind a car for how many seconds you set it on or whatever.
Kind of important.
Kind of important, yeah. So nobody around here will calibrate an Audi, so I had to go to Shreveport to the dealer on a tow truck. And, I mean, that's a $2,500 deal right there. 2 tow truck trips and a dealer fee.
Wow, man.
That's just for calibrations.
Yeah.
That's not including the parts, the labor, everything else. So that was an expensive bumper job.
Things to think about when buying a car.
I'm just
Who's going to calibrate the Audi?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So crazy. That's a big part of fixing a car is you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
I had no idea that it was going to cost so much to put a bumper on an Audi. So there's a lot of advice out there from people that don't work in body shops. And that advice gets spread to people, and then they show up at my door knowing all this advice that got told to them, and I'm the one that has to break the news to them.
Yeah.
That ain't it.
So the bottom line is just call Walt first.
Yeah.
Call Redeemed Auto Body and just let them know what's going on, send them a picture, and go from there. That's what I did.
The best thing to do, is to have your shop of choice.
Right.
And have them on speed dial.
Right.
Even before the insurance company, because like for me, if you called me and said, hey man, I just got in a wreck, wheel got knocked off, can I tow my truck to your shop? I'd be like, yes. Bring it on over.
Okay, so
not a big deal. Get it over here and we can figure out the rest later. You know, it's like I'm the emergency room for cars, basically.
Triage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like one thing I've done with my girls is I'll put a envelope or something in their glove box and I'll tell them it's there and there's some cash in it in case they need to pay a tow truck. There's because you don't want to get stuck having to negotiate. And then there's instructions and here's the auto body shop you want to tell them to take it to. Because I found one time they just hauled it off somewhere and it was hundreds of dollars in fees just to move it from that body shop to the. And if I had just known, I'd have had them take it straight there. Yeah. So you have that available to anybody that wants to drop their car off.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody wanted to drop their car off any time, there's a drop box by the front door.
You just
bring it on.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, we'll figure it out later. But you need your car fixed, and my place is a safe place for it to be.
Right, and if you take it to another place, they're going to charge you fees, which is how they.
Something about that is all the tow truck drivers. I would think most tow companies around here are on the list. So when the police officer works a wreck, they go down the list and see who's next.
Okay.
And then they call that company. The tow truck picks up the car, brings it back to their yard,
Right.
and there you go. That's where your car is.
But it needs to get
Unless you
towed again.
specifically say,
Right.
bring it here.
That's right.
And I've had some people, they get it towed to their house because it's a free place for it to be.
Where
And
else
what
you
better place would you want your property at than your own property?
Right.
Until you get it to the shop of choice or whatever. So that's very important. Like, where would you want your car to be if something were to happen and you couldn't just drive away?
Right.
Because you do have the choice.
Yeah, you do.
You
and you can decide ahead of time what you want that place to be.
Yeah.
And then there's no decision to be made while because usually when there's a wreck, especially if it's a pretty decent one, people are shook up. They're in shock. They can't think straight. They don't even know. They keep putting their keys in the wrong pocket.
There's a lot going on.
Can't find their driver's license. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And the police officers that are attending, they'll try to help calm that down and take a couple things off their plate, which is why they have that list. And they're just trying to provide a courtesy.
Look, the last thing somebody's really thinking of when they get in a wreck is, where am I going to tow my car?
Right.
No, if my wife has got the kids with her, she's worried
Yeah.
about the kids. She's worried about getting out of the rain.
Yeah.
She's worried about
Getting out of the rain.
just getting back home, being safe.
Being
Because
on
being
the
on the side of a road with cars passing by is not safe.
Being by the daiquiri store at 10:30 at night.
Boy, I know, right? So,
It's
where
kinda
your
crazy.
car's getting towed is really
Yeah.
your
kind of a big deal.
last care, especially when you hear a cop say, "Oh, no, we'll get it taken care of." I'm like, "Okay, thanks.
That's
Thank
a good
you,
point.
Jesus."
Well, and so to kind of recap on where your niche is, I learned a long time ago that you can either be a low cost leader or you can be a specialist, and you really need to choose one in a lot of practices. And so you're more of a you're not going to be the cheapest person to go to, but you do stand up for your clients, who are your clients, and you make sure that they have an advocate who knows what they're talking about. And in my experience, you've presented the details unwavering to the insurance company until they submit that this is actually what needs to be done, even if it took a few tries and we had some communication issues and I was nervous.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you kind of gave me that stability to say, hey, and I hit a small deer. I mean, it wasn't even it didn't look like a lot of damage to me. And I was shocked at how much it costed to do it right.
Going back to, you'd be surprised how much it costs.
But I sold that truck for $31,000.
So you did well.
Put a lot of money in my pocket.
Yeah.
Nobody said, "Oh yeah, it's got repairs." Nope, it was on the record too.
Well, see,
but they knew that I'd done it well.
That's the goal. Is I tell people all the time, I want to fix your car so well that when you go to sell it or trade it in, and they say, "Hey, it's Carfax, where was it hit?" And you go, "I don't know. You tell me." And just try to,
you can probably
go
find
find
it.
out where it got
You're
hit,
the
buddy.
expert, yeah.
Go see. So that's the goal. That
Yeah.
should be the goal for any shop. It should be safe and it should look
Yeah.
brand new like it did off the showroom floor, and it should work the same way too. So, and there's a lot of laws in Louisiana that support that as well.
Right.
Kind of going back to what you said earlier, like getting the customer involved and the insurance company and the shop, the little three-headed beast working together. There's a law that basically says all parties must work together. And there's a law that says that a shop should restore a vehicle back to its safety, reliability, function, performance, and value. All those things. Louisiana says that. That's my job. And so I'm glad to hear it worked out well for you. And that's what we strive to do every day. Is just fix it the way it needs to be fixed. Make it look the way it needs to look. Make it work the way it needs to work. Very simple.
And I guess if everybody was doing that, they'd all be your price.
But okay, going back to the DRP thing.
I understand.
All right, so we're going to kind of get back into the. You just mentioned like how, like good work costs a little more, right? So the DRP thing, you get a bunch of cars, but each job is a little less than what you would really want or need profit wise. So you need a few more cars to pay the bills.
I got you.
Whereas I might not get that many cars, but if I'm getting what I need out of each job, then that pays the bills. So instead of having 50 cars on the lot, I might only have 20. But I can still make the same money on those 20 as I would those 50 at those discounted rates. And less cars means more time that we can spend on each car, making sure that it's done right, making sure it does all the things that it needs to do. Whereas You got a madhouse over here full of 50 cars, and everybody's just trying to get as much as they can done all at one time, and next thing you know, things get missed, corners get cut, and it might not be the greatest repair in the world just because they're so busy. So that's, from a business standpoint, you have to make a decision. Like, are we going to join in with the insurance company and do things that way and be overwhelmed with too much to do all at one time and not making as much profit per job, working for the man? Or are we going to be truly independent and do things the way they need to be done, charge what we need to charge fairly? We don't come up with magic numbers. There's book times, part prices, the paint materials cost us much.
These are standards that are set forth by regulatory groups over your industry.
Right. We can name our price on some things. We can say, all right, this dent's going to cost this much to fix, and we're going to charge this much time to do this. And we can set our own labor rates as well, our hourly rate, which if you want to be competitive, you charge competitive rates. You don't want to be $100 an hour when everybody else is at 50.
But you also don't want to lose money because you had to ship an Audi off to somewhere twice because nobody else can do it, and now you're out all that money because you didn't quote it right.
Here's a good example with that, though. A lot of shops would have never shipped the Audi to Shreveport to get
what would have happened?
Calibrated. Who knows?
The sensors just wouldn't work, and they would have thought we can track this person?
It might have worked.
Okay.
I don't think there was a light on, but Audi said, if you do this, it must be calibrated. So it would have worked. It just might not have worked the way it's supposed to work.
And a calibration is strictly a service. There's no part to put in. You're just calibrating what's already there.
Yeah, everybody has pretty much a windshield camera. There's a little camera above the rearview mirror in your windshield. That's typically what looks forward and sees the cars ahead of you, and helps adjust the car.
Right.
If you replace your windshield, it needs to be calibrated because it's moved.
Wow. So I did have in the notes to ask you, what do you think about some of the dash cameras that are out there that you can just sort of buy at Best Buy or whatever? And
I have one in my truck.
Really?
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. It comes on, just does its job, and you don't have to worry about it.
It's actually it's my rearview mirror.
It is.
Actually, it goes over your rearview mirror, and I have a camera in the back, so I have a video.
I saw that
of my rearview mirror, and then it also has a camera on the front.
Yeah,
I love it. Because nowadays everybody's so sue happy.
Yeah, gives you some protection from litigious people that might say that you ran the red light.
And then I made a Facebook post a month ago, where somebody ran us off the road going down I-20.
Yeah,
it'd have been kind of cool to see the video.
Yeah.
And then also people are like, he's just blowing smoke. I'm like, no, there's the video. I got proof. And this ding dong ran me off the road. I had to drive through the grass 60 plus miles an hour.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's good to have video.
Good to have video. I think we need to wrap it up. You have been a pleasure to talk to. You've given us, I think you've given everybody just incredibly good advice. Is there anything you'd leave us that related to cars or not, any wisdom you'd want to share with anybody watching this?
Oh man, well I think wasn't the topic supposed to be transparency or something like that, or we just kind of just talked about whatever?
That's the goal of the show, is to transparently
that's
help
the goal
people
of the whole show.
with information they can use, and this is what you've done. You know, so
I think just being honest all the time is really hard, but it's the best case scenario for you and everybody else around you and for every situation. Sometimes it doesn't work out with the insurance company, and sometimes there's a hard conversation I have to have with the customer. Like, hey, they're not paying for this. I've done all I could. I don't have a magic wand. Sometimes you got to have those tough conversations and be real with people, but as long as you're being real for all the right reasons, then you make a bad situation not so bad, because it's hard either way around. Either I'm going to lose money and do it for free, or somebody's going to have to pay, and I'm going to try to help them get their money back. But it's just tough all the time. So being true and honest all the time with your intimate relationships, with your personal relationships and business relationships, trying to be who you actually are all the time, and letting out what's in your head and what needs to be said, actually doing that is something that I think we all need to do. It's something that I've always struggled with.
Yeah, it's definitely a lost. I think our culture has lost their way in that. Not to say that everybody's like that, but it seems to be that when someone makes a mistake or causes damage or there's an expense to be, everybody puts up this defensive, oh, I didn't do it, and starts making up stories or tries to protect themselves from, rather than just saying, I'm going to eat that and it's going to cost me money, but I'll figure it out. Yeah. It's hard. It is hard. It is very hard to run a business with the integrity that says that even if I have to take a loss, I'll take it if it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it a bunch, just to get it done, do the right thing, and
God's blessing.
Go on to the next one.
5 years is and look, I want to point something out too. One of the things I noticed on your site, 154 Google reviews.
154? We've went past 150? I didn't even know.
This was this morning.
Oh, wow.
And do you know how many stars you have?
All Still five, baby. I know that
your stars are like, you never see that. You never see it because somebody's always got to say something about something. There's always that one that dings you. Yeah, but I don't see any on yours. So that says a lot about the setting the expectations, communicating properly, being honest at every step of the way, and leaving nothing to the imagination.
I really, really, really push our interactions with people. Like, that is goal number one for my front office people is constant communication, transparency, honesty, and doing everything we can to help them. But mainly just, if you just stay in touch with somebody, I don't care what business you're in, if you just stay in communication with them, a no update. How about that?
A no update.
You just call them to call them, say, hey, look, nothing's changed. Just wanting to check in with you. Hope you're having a good day.
Yeah.
That will go miles with a customer. And that alone can take big problems and make them not so big, because the customer's on your side. You've been talking to them. They'll be more willing to go, oh, man, that stinks. Yeah, we can work this out, instead of, well, I've been waiting 2 weeks and now we got this. Like, if you have that communication with them, they almost become like a graceful friend in a way. So
the more grace can be given if something doesn't go their way.
So I like to say, no update all the time.
I love that.
Because we have a lot of jobs that might be there for weeks. We might not have anything new to tell them.
Yeah, and we can steal that idea. I can steal it in my business. I do it. Sometimes I like to tell people, hey, I'm just calling to see how you're doing. There's really nothing going on. But I like the no update. Update.
And I think nowadays with social media and people being more hermits into in their homes and not going out as much, and I think it's a breath of fresh air when somebody greets them, smiles at them, makes them feel warm and fuzzy, makes it a good experience. I think that alone can be good for any business. I don't care what you do or how you do it, but if you make people feel good, you'll be miles ahead of your competition.
I love that.
Yep.
That's good. So going back to the origin of Redeemed, early in this conversation, we'll close with this, that you had said, you felt a need to do things a little different. You felt there was a need in this area for something that you could provide. You could combine this level of service, integrity, and workmanship to have a higher standard and stand out above everybody else. Where did that come from?
Like just all of those thoughts, or the name?
No, the notion, the idea, the desire.
I've just always just anything that I'm doing, I want to be the absolute best at it. Not that I'm competing with anybody, but I know that I can. If there's 100% way to do it, I want to do 110% every time, with every job, with anything that I'm doing.
And where does that come from?
I really don't know. I guess I've always been competitive with myself. Like I like to lift weights in the morning. Yeah. Like that's just what I like to do. I like to push myself. I always like to see how good I can do something. I play music. I want to see how good I want to see how good I can feel this song and make other people feel it. Instead of just playing the song, I want to feel it. I want to be right there with it.
That's cool.
And I guess with the shop, like, I knew there was a better way. I didn't really know what that was yet, but it didn't take me very long to find out all the things I didn't know. all the really positive, meaningful things about my industry that I didn't know that were really good to learn and that I've been putting to good use over these years. And then obviously the people aspect. Like, I just really wanted to have a place where people felt good about having their car there. And it almost kind of feels like you're making friends along the way. Like, I see people out and about, and I fix their car. Oh, hey, Walt, how's that baby doing? I'm like, this person really doesn't know me from Adam, but they're asking me how my baby's doing. Like, that's just cool.
Hopefully they get the right baby. Like,
well,
not like me. I was like, oh,
we got a few of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's
cool. Man.
That's fun.
It's rewarding.
It very much is.
It's rewarding when you don't have to like hide from people because you think they might hate you.
Well, and that's something my consultant, I have my industry consultant, told me. He's like, you want to do such a good job on everybody's car that you won't hide your face if you see them out in public. You'll want to go up to them and go, "How's your car doing?"
Right.
You know, and I think that should be for everybody that has a business and anything that they do. You want to be that proud of what you do.
So cool.
You know, and that's what I like to do. I want to be the best at what I do and everything that I do, and this is my passion. You know, doing body work. I love it. I still love it. The whole running a business thing kind of throws a kink.
A little harder.
Things sometimes it's tough.
If you could just do all that without having to run a business, you'd be great. But
you know,
the bills got to be paid and.
Well, then again, that's also the new challenge that I enjoy chasing. How
part of being
how is Walt going to run a business?
Right.
Because I'm really bad at all these things that I have to be good at. So I'm going to work on being good at these things that I stink at.
Right.
You know, let's go. Let's work on it.
Or you can hire it out.
And here's a good quote that maybe everybody can hear is, one thing you can count on is failure. You're always going to fail. It's a matter of how you go about fixing it and learning from it and moving forward and knowing that it's probably going to happen again. And you don't need to kick yourself in the butt. You need to just keep doing better, keep learning, keep failing, keep doing better.
And that's a perfect segue. But before I get into that, I do have a closer statement. But your website is beautiful, by the way. I don't know who did that, but that is awesome.
Thank you.
That's very good.
I put a lot of work into it.
Did you do it yourself? Or
most of it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you for hire? That's really good.
Well, my buddy Buster Craig, he does a lot of media stuff,
cool.
and he's done a lot of my marketing stuff, so he's been a big help with that as well.
Yeah. Well, if you do nothing else, go to redeemedautobody.com. Is that right? Did I say it right?
Yes, redeemedautobody.com.
Redeemedautobody.com, no hyphens or anything. It's just, in 10 minutes or less, you can see everything, and it's a really excellent website, and all the reviews are there. I need to figure out how you did that because that's really cool. And then, if you obviously Walt is just rich with good ideas and good quotes, and so give him a call, take him to lunch. I think he said earlier, sometimes he needs to get away from the shop.
All the magic happens during lunch, baby.
As long as there's food involved, he'll feel better. We're gonna go to lunch,
namely barbecue.
You are singing. Yes. I believe heaven smells like barbecue.
Yes, my food pyramid. You got the pyramid, and it's like
that one was a lie.
The mass of it is barbecue, and the very top of it's like water and beer. I think.
Okay,
something like that.
Maybe some bread somewhere. Well, some people drink their bread.
Well, no, bread goes hand in hand with barbecue. You got to have good Texas toast with butter on it.
Yeah. That's very cool. Well, there's a lot more we can talk about, but. In closing, I'm reading. It's so funny you said that at the end about small improvements because there's a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits, and it is really, really cool. I've just gotten into the first few chapters, and there's a quote I want to share from that. But what you've demonstrated today is essentially what he's saying is that you will have failures. You will. In business especially, there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be disappointments. There's going to be difficulties.
I think with anything in life, marriage, relationships, raising your kids,
it's a
friendships,
choice.
everything, you're going to fail.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
We can stay on the horse or we can get off the horse. But talking about habits, we all have habits. From the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep, it's just a bunch of habits all kind of packed into a day. And, of course, there are things that pull me away and cause me to do new things. But, the premise of this book is that if you can take a few things out of your work life or your performing sports or whatever your music, and you can improve by just a very small 1% improvement in several different areas, then it's amazing what you can accomplish.
My consultant tells me all the time, he's like, it's not about doing one thing 100% better. It's about doing 100 things 1% better all the time.
That's really cool. That's very true.
Yeah. So
what can we do to make Monroe 100% better? Like that's also the gist of the show. We live in Monroe, Louisiana, and I think this could be true no matter where you live and who you are. Is what can you do to make your hometown better?
I think number one is just being active in all the stuff that's going on around here.
Get involved.
Don't just stay at home, man. Get
Don't
out
be
and
an
go do
armchair
stuff.
prophet,
There's a lot of stuff that goes on around here that people don't know about.
Yeah.
You know, like one of my favorite things is the art crawl.
Art crawl.
Like it's super fun.
And you were telling me about the BMX.
Yeah, we have the
course?
Twin City BMX.
Okay.
It's right behind the Civic Center.
Right. And they have a Facebook page.
They
right?
do have a Facebook page, Twin City BMX. It's in Monroe. We have races on Sundays and Thursdays. Typically Mondays are practice night or a makeup race day. But yeah, I mean, we got kids that are 2 or 3 years old out there on bikes, all the way up to there's some guys out there in their 60s hitting the track. That's what me and my son do for fun. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Just don't hit the dirt because as you get older, it hurts a little worse.
Don't hit the
Yeah.
It's not the fall that hurts; it's hitting the ground.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you for coming and for blessing us with all the information. I want to encourage our viewers to go to redeemedautobody.com, check out Monroe Chamber, and like Walt said, if you are tired of being an armchair prophet and sitting there, passing the time watching. I guess what do they call it when you're watching the whole series at once? There's a word for it. Binging. Yes, thank you, Jeremy Antley. Jeremy Antley is like a dictionary.
It's good to binge every once in a while.
It's okay to binge every once in a while. But
today's a rainy day, and today's a great binge movie day.
Really what are you going to binge?
Oh boy, I don't know. Garbage TV. Okay. Garbage. My wife turned me on to it.
You don't have to say it.
It's Love is Blind.
Love is Blind?
Yeah, it's garbage TV, but it's so entertaining because it's so terrible.
It sounds like a soap opera.
It's soap opera's way better.
Hey, when you do as much as you do and you work or something, you got to get your mind off of it.
I tell people all the time, my favorite thing to do nowadays is nothing.
Nothing.
Yes.
Let's do more of that.
Yeah.
Well, you got what did Ramsey say? You got to live like nobody else so that you can live like nobody. That's kind of the same thing.
True that. Yeah. And sometimes nothing is part of that equation.
That's right. Well, thank you for coming. It was a good show. We are the WYSIWYG Talk Show, and you'll have all the links in the comments. Check out the book Atomic Habits, and check out the book Entree Leadership. So that's all we got for today, and we'll see you next time.
On this journey together, we're bound to connect. When what we see is what we get on the WYSIWYG Talk Show, and what you'll see is what you'll get.